Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Ready?
Yep. Let's go. Let's laugh. We are imperfect after all.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Imperfect Us podcast.
I'm Leanne Camilleri.
And I'm Lisa Downs. As hosts of the Imperfect Us podcast, we share relatable stories that celebrate we are all perfectly imperfect humans leading perfectly imperfect lives. We discover practical and evidence-based strategies that draw on the science of well-being and positive psychology that help us to uncover the barriers that might hold us back from being our authentic selves and turn them into opportunities so that we can show up more consistently, doing what we really aspire to do and who we want to be.
We acknowledge the Wadawurrung and the Kaurna people as traditional custodians of the beautiful lands on which this podcast is being recorded. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend this respect to other First Nations people who are here with us today. So, let's get started. Hello everyone. In this podcast, we are reflecting and expressing our gratitude. As people start to wind down, the holiday season in Australia and all around the world, many of you are starting to wind down and take breaks at this time of year also. When we began this podcast at the beginning of this year, we had no idea how it was going to go. We weren't sure if people would be interested. But what we've found is that we have been totally blown away by the feedback and support by you, our listeners. And for that, we are very grateful. Lisa and I started dreaming and designing this podcast late last year. And as our dreams and ideas grew, we welcomed the wonderful Brenton Ainsworth, who every episode weaves his magic. And we would love to express our gratitude to you, Brenton. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
It would be great, I thought, to share some of the things that we've learned throughout this season. So who's going to start?
Pick me.
Go.
Can I just say, first of all, I am so grateful to have met both of you. It has been an extraordinary journey and I've learned so much from the both of you. It's just been a wonderful ride, a great amount of learning, and also the amazing guests that we've had on Imperfect Us just for this year in particular, and those that are coming up, which is really, really exciting. But I'm also really humbled about the generosity of our guests and what some of the things that they've been sharing with us, and it has really had a very positive impact on myself. And I know from the feedback we're getting from our audience is that they're saying the same things. So that's been fantastic. But I really wanted to share a highlight for me. Is it all right if I share a highlight?
Please do.
Oh, awesome. So one of the guests, particularly Daniel Flynn, which is one of our recent releases, he is one of the co-founders of the Thank You Group, and his journey with his partners has been extraordinary. But the message that I got from him, the real sort of takeaway for me, was the power of us. And it reminded me, Leanne, when we, from the very beginning days of exploring what the Imperfect Us was about, it was about the us, that it's not just us as ourselves, but others, and also how that impacts the world. And the power of us is when we work together to do that, anything's possible. And one of his messages that has stuck with me and has helped me to rewrite my own story was that very thing. He encourages everybody, you are the author of your own stories. So what is the stories that you want moving into the future? So write your own story and see what's possible. And that brings me back to that hope theory, Leanne, which we love. So when we're dreaming of, which you mentioned at the top of this show, is when we're dreaming of the things that are possible for us to achieve and designing pathways to allow those things to happen and just do one small step at a time, celebrate that achievement and keep moving forward is such a gift. And I think about when Daniel was talking about, he calls them stumbling blocks when there are those obstacles, and using those stumbling blocks and learning about it to turn them into those stepping stones to get towards the goals and dreams and aspirations that you have. So that's, for me, a really big learning. Own your own story. Find out about those self-doubts that might pop up. Think about them as stumbling blocks and turn them into stepping stones to get towards your goals.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And that was a great episode too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Daniel Flynn, though, I also love, like, obviously he's created this amazing business, but he spoke about having a passion for business and that need to change and to change the world and have purposeful input into the world. And I find a lot of times with businesses and things like that, obviously you want to be successful, you've got to make money, you've got to employ others to support you. However, that purpose to change the world or that initiative might be lost, where he really thrives off that.
Totally. That contribution, isn't it, with the purpose? When you have a contribution mindset, anything is possible. I love that about their whole organisation.
It brings us back to motivation too, doesn't it? When we think about that intrinsic motivation, what drives us when we think about, the pillars of well-being in PERMA and that having meaning and purpose. We're driven differently if it's meaningful to ourselves within us.
Even the name, like, thank you. So I've been reading a lot around this whole idea of generosity and passing it on. And obviously he's utilizing that business to help change the world, pass it on, and work with poor people who are stuck in poverty. However, when you purchase that, you literally read the words thank you. So they're passing on that generosity and that gratitude.
Yeah.
Which is
beautiful.
So small, but it just emphasizes that idea.
It's a contagion effect, isn't it? So when you are doing something that has a purpose for others or the world, whatever it might be, you feel great about it. But then because you can see the impact it has for other people, you get a double whammy of thanks and gratitude. It's fantastic. I love that.
It is so lovely. Brenton, what about you? What's something that you've taken from this year, sitting at the desk, doing all the lovely work that you do in producing a wonderful podcast? You get to hear a lot.
You do hear a lot. And sometimes we're fortunate enough that I guess that's spectacular. That actually takes ages to edit because I'm forever going back listening to what they're trying to say. And I always forget what hat I've got on. The well-being hat comes out more than the editing hat. So there's probably parts that I miss, but it's all about being imperfect. But two that kind of stood out to me, and I'm saying two because I've kind of meshed them and mixed them together, and they were back to back, and that was Margie Worrell and Caroline Adams. And I remember when I was editing both of those, I was messaging you, Leanne, flat out saying, this needs to be our quote. And I was like, no, this needs to be our quote. No, this needs to be our quote. And I'm sitting there passing it on, and it's probably fresh in my mind because I actually was recently talking with a ex-MMA professional boxer, fought in huge championship title fights, and a really nice guy, and brilliant with kids as well. And we were talking, and I said, I've just edited this podcast, and the initial 90% is just showing up. The initial 90% is just showing up. And that is what Caroline Adams was stating. And I thought about it. And then I mixed with what she was saying. And then we had Margie's release later. And what she was saying is that, yes, it's all about just showing up. But then it becomes about the journey, not that destination. And you got to focus on that process. And that's something that really resonates with me. And so many people I find are too worried about where they're going, but not how they're going to get there. They might not have those little steps in the journey to take them to those goals. And that means that they're not being present in that moment. They're not seeing the opportunities. And a lot of things for happiness, I've been reading a lot about happiness lately, are in those moments. And you pull your gratitude out of those key moments and you might miss it. And especially when everyone's in such a rush, if your destination you want to get to is happiness and you're so worried about it, you're not actually going to get there because you're not seeing what's actually occurring. So, and I was thinking about it. I was at the driving range with one of my friends, and golf is something that's no good for my ego at all. I
don't believe that, Brenton.
It's a challenge, trust me. The balls kind of do what they want. I don't know.
We are imperfect, don't you know? You know that, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. When I play golf,
just checking.
We got to create a new word for imperfect when I've got a golf stick in my hand. But I was looking up. It was over the sunset. And it was such a beautiful moment. There was kangaroos in the distance because obviously they knew I wasn't going to hit them. And it was just that beautiful moment where you could be present. And I thought all it took was me actually, because I wasn't going to go, was rocking up there because it was a little bit windy. And then not necessarily taking myself out of my comfort zone, but rocking up and then being present in that moment. And it's all, and Margie talks about if it's worthy of what you're doing, even if you fail, you wouldn't regret having tried it. And I feel like those two were very, very powerful. Like you had a lot of kindness stuff throughout, but if you're rocking up and you've had a go and then you don't succeed, well, then you haven't really failed because you've learned from it. But will you regret it? And you won't. So all of it was just about having a go and taking that step. So those were the two that really resonated with me.
I love those bits. And I agree with you about particularly that one with Margie Worrell about, just getting it done, and doesn't matter if you fail because you've shown up and you've learnt so much about yourself along the way, which reminded me a little bit of that hope theory, Leanne. When we talk about, having the agency to be able to develop the goals that you want to have and then designing pathways. But that's having the willpower, which is the willpower that you really want to do something like this, and the motivation to be able to help you to move towards that. But also the way power is, well, what way? What else? Try this, like Margie was saying. And if you fail, well, then just have that look of what's happening there. What have I learned here and how do I adapt? Maybe I need to go a different way. And then the we power again, we come back into you need to have people around you that are going to champion you, which both those ladies, Brenton, definitely shared, that when we champion each other, we are better. And we know that when we work together, relationships are important.
Yeah.
I loved Carolyn Miller's ampleship. And, I've carried that with me since. And when I see good in others, because having a high strength of appreciation of beauty and excellence, I'm very good at seeing the best in others. Yeah. And that ampleship just adds to that for me in being able to recognize the best in others.
But also sharing that with others too, because acknowledging that you see their strengths, or maybe they don't know some of them, and that you're highlighting that to them. But also introducing people to other people as well, because there's a strength or a common thing or something they can learn from another person. Ampleship is fantastic.
Yeah.
And what about you, Leanne? What stood out for you?
What's it about for me? I think coming into recording today, I had a definite idea of who I wanted to talk about, and then I started thinking more. And what comes to me now is Lindsay Ode's thrivability. And because I think that encompasses everything that we talk about. And there were some three things that came to me, when we think about, all of the things that we've been learning. And he mentioned, that we might view well-being as a few simple steps. We might see it as, just a few things that we need to do. But the reality is that it's more an experience of having competency, being able to interact with the environment that we're in, whether that be physically or socially, and our connection with others. And so often in our conversations, it comes up that the importance of the other person, the difference someone else has made in someone's striving towards whatever it is that they've wanted to achieve, or being the difference, gone ahead to explore something or not. And then that composure, and I think that really plays for us, in as perfectly imperfect humans, composure is that self-regulation and being aware of our self-talk and acceptance of ourselves, and understanding, when our thoughts sort of pop up and how that plays. And when we have that understanding, we're able to interact more effectively in our environments, whatever they are. And I think, that really plays a lot. The other one that I wanted to just say about was I've really been on a journey this year around diverse thinking. And I think back to Rochelle Brunton's podcast on neurodiversity, and that left me thinking a lot this year around how that plays out in the world and in our in our schools and workplaces. And then also when we spoke with Alona, Alona Silver, and that again is an area that I want to learn so much more about in our world, and really playing a part in the diversity that's in the world. So I guess that's my takeaway. There's so much, isn't there? There's every time there's so much to learn. I'm always left thinking,
I think that's a big thing, though, isn't it? It's all about learning for all of us. So I think it's always ongoing. We talk about lifelong learners, and we are, and we have been. And I think there is nothing, we don't finish. And the science also doesn't finish. It keeps going, and we find out new research and move forward. I wanted to add to that, if that was all right, Leanne. I was thinking about all those things you said. And I know Lindsay Odes and his team have been working on wellbeing literacy, for example, but it's more about even like learning literacy. And that's some of the things that I've noticed right throughout our all of our episodes is the power of language. And when we have language to be able to describe things in a particular way, it either hinders our thinking or it amplifies and is much more helpful. And I'm thinking about, remember the initial parts where we're talking about our doubts and our self-doubts and so forth? If we talk to ourselves in a very harsh way, we're always thinking poorly of ourselves. But when we can reframe that in that self-compassion part, is all of a sudden, if we can reframe it into more positive language, then we're more likely to be thinking differently, and it then will draw us into more positive actions.
And that comes right back to what our very good friend Kylie McCleary was talking about turning that volume down. Which is a very hard thing to do, but once you learn how to do it, and that's when that, like, the emotional intelligence that Nathan spoke about as well can kind of come into play.
And even Craig Hassard, his was just one of my favourite ones of all, and he talked about the what was it, the inner critic FM?
Inner critic FM.
Yeah. And even there was another one too, Robert I always get this wrong, can never say it. Robert Biswas. I can never.
Biswas-Diener.
Remember him? He's amazing. But he talked a lot about the radio FM, about turning. That's where sort of that had come from. And it's such an important thing to turn down, but also it helps you to understand what are those voices that are telling you one thing, and knowing whether you have that self-awareness to change that perspective. Yeah, so much. It's just been a wonderful, wonderful year, and I am so grateful for our listeners. Their feedback has been so incredibly humbling, and I just love some of the things that they're saying. And how much it's having an impact on their world. And we hope that we can continue to do that, or we don't even hope, we know we will be continuing to do that, to support everybody, because we are imperfect, and thank goodness we are.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself, Lisa. But I am so grateful. I think it's so nice to receive a message or have a conversation with someone who says, I heard your podcast. And Lisa, I think it was you that said someone's friend was telling them about a podcast. And when they told them it was our podcast, and they said, yes, we know them.
Yeah. There's been so many amazing connections. And I've really also appreciated the comments that we're getting from overseas. I had, in my mind, I think I must have had a narrow view early on that it would just be in Australia. And so I've been blown away about the feedback from others, that it's a lot of the concepts we're talking about translate to everybody. They may have different language in some areas. However, we're still human. We're all human. And these stories pop up and try and derail us. And what we're trying to do is just to question is that really going to derail us? Are we going to allow that, or are we going to change that conversation? And that's what's exciting.
I guess that's what makes us perfectly imperfect, doesn't it?
Definitely.
I think I would love to end by asking our listeners to share with us their feedback. We love it. We thrive on your feedback, listeners. We it means so much to us, and we'd love to hear who you might like to hear from, or what's working well. Like, give us some helpful feedback. What's working well for you as a listener to our podcast? What are some areas we can improve on?
Definitely.
We'd love to hear. And share in conversation. We have a wonderful page on LinkedIn, the Imperfect Us page, and we invite you to share your comments and get a conversation going. We really want to embrace this as we start to grow even more.
And to know what is it that you'd love us to do more of? Is there something that we haven't tackled yet that you'd love us to? We'd be up for that challenge. So absolutely, whatever context it might be, it could be education, it could be workplaces, it could be parenting, whatever it might be. What is it that's missing for you at the moment, and how can we fill that gap?
Because the platform is all about helping you as much as we can.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea. Just one more thing, if you don't mind, is
Absolutely,
that
Brent.
obviously, like we spoke about how grateful we are for our listeners, and I'm very grateful for you two as well, what you two have been able to achieve, and the confidence has grown in the way that you've interviewed. But with our listeners, we spoke about at the start about a busy time of the year that it currently is, regardless of where you are in the world. But it'll probably be a good idea just to try and take, as well as give us some positive feedback, take some time for yourself.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So that time of the year, you could be having a coffee for 5 minutes by yourself. You could be going out, catching up with a group of mates. It doesn't have to be a very highly mindful experience in the quiet, but try and do one thing just for yourself, no matter if it's 5 minutes or 5 hours. Do something, because then you'll pass that kindness on in a more powerful way.
Oh,
And
I
you know
love
what?
that.
That's a beautiful thing, Brenton. And there are so many. If you have a look at or listen to any of the recordings of all of the episodes, all of our guests have kindly shared a wellbeing strategy that they use or suggest. And there are so many. But please go back and have a listen to some of those, and they will give you some fantastic self-care strategies or wellbeing strategies that might help you to have the most wonderful summer, or wherever you are, for daily practices. Well done, Brenton. That was a great idea.
Oh, absolutely. That's such a great point, Brenton. Thank you so much. Someone reached out to me this week and said, after they'd listened to the podcast with Lewis and Celeste, that they had helped someone with putting their groceries into their car. It was an older person, and the older person said, why would you want to help me? And I thought, how beautiful. These little things that we can do in our life to make a difference for ourselves and others really are that small. They don't need to be massive to make a difference to ourselves and others. Thank you, Brenton. That was a great thing to add.
And thank you to the both of you. It's been such a joy working with you both. And I know we mentioned it in one of our very first episodes, where I actually got to meet Leanne Brenton the other day. So initially we hadn't met. We had a bit of fun. We actually even did karaoke, and we said we wouldn't, but we did.
I like that. I like
but
it.
Brenton, it has been such a joy working with you. And we're just so glad that you're part of our team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't think listeners don't believe us that we haven't physically met.
No, so we need a road trip over to WA now.
Yeah.
That'll be it.
Perhaps that's in the plan for 2023.
Yeah, I like it. Stay tuned for more.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful holiday break. Please stay safe and well, and we look forward to catching up with you in 2023.
Bye for now, everybody.
Bye for now.
And thank you for listening to the Imperfect Us podcast. As always, we are extremely grateful to our executive producer, Brenton Ainsworth, for helping us to put this episode together. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with someone you care about, and we would be grateful if you could rate this podcast on iTunes. To continue the conversation and see what we're up to, you can connect with us on LinkedIn. Just search for Imperfect Us. Bye for now.